Welcome to Curiosities, hidden facts about cities for curious people. What if I told you there's a city where an entire downtown was lifted into the air, where a river flows backwards, where a hidden city lies beneath the streets, and where thousands of mysterious alleyways form one of the largest urban mazes on Earth? It sounds like science fiction, but every one of these stories is real. Chicago isn't just famous for its skyline, deep dish pizza, or architecture. It's a city that repeatedly solved impossible problems by doing things no one had ever attempted before. Today, we're exploring 4 unbelievable facts that prove Chicago may be one of the most extraordinary cities ever built. Let's begin with perhaps the most unbelievable one of all. In the middle of the 19th century, Chicago had a serious problem. The city was growing at an incredible pace, but it had been built on extremely flat, swampy land just a few feet above Lake Michigan. Every time it rained, streets became rivers of mud mixed with sewage. Waste had nowhere to drain. Water collected everywhere, creating the perfect conditions for diseases like cholera and typhoid fever. Thousands became sick, and city officials realized that simply building sewers wouldn't solve the problem because there wasn't enough slope for the water to flow. Most cities facing a crisis like this would have demolished neighborhoods and rebuilt them. Chicago chose a completely different solution. Instead of rebuilding the city, engineers decided to raise it. Not one building, not one street, entire blocks. Beginning in the 1850s, thousands of giant screwjacks were placed beneath buildings throughout downtown. Teams of hundreds of workers turned these mechanical jacks in perfect synchronization. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, massive structures weighing thousands of tons began to rise. One of the most famous examples was the Tremont House Hotel. It weighed around 35,000 tons and was lifted more than 6 feet into the air while remaining fully operational. Guests continued sleeping in their rooms. Employees kept serving meals. Visitors walked through the lobby without realizing the entire building was gradually moving upward. Banks stayed open. Businesses continued trading. People simply carried on with their daily lives while the city itself was being lifted. Some buildings were raised nearly 4 meters. Once elevated, engineers finally had enough height to install a modern sewer system beneath the streets. Even today, parts of old Chicago remain hidden below the current sidewalks. In some places, what used to be the first floor has become a basement. It remains one of the greatest engineering achievements in urban history. But somehow, Chicago wasn't finished changing nature. Because only a few decades later, the city decided to do something even more unbelievable. It reversed the direction of an entire river. Originally, the Chicago River flowed into Lake Michigan. That sounds perfectly normal, except for one problem. Chicago also dumped its sewage into that same river, which meant the city's drinking water was becoming contaminated by its own waste. Disease outbreaks became increasingly common, and something drastic had to be done. Rather than relocating millions of people or finding a new water supply, engineers developed one of the boldest civil engineering projects ever attempted: the Sanitary and Ship Canal. Completed in 1900, this enormous canal connected the Chicago River to waterways flowing toward the Mississippi River. By carefully controlling water levels and elevation, engineers achieved something that had never been done on this scale before. The river began flowing backwards. Instead of carrying polluted water into Lake Michigan, it now carried it away from the city's drinking water source. Nature itself had effectively been reprogrammed. Today, Chicago remains home to one of the very few rivers on Earth whose flow was intentionally reversed by human engineering. It transformed public health, changed transportation, and became one of the greatest hydraulic engineering projects ever completed. If lifting an entire city and reversing a river weren't enough, there's another Chicago hidden where almost nobody looks. Beneath your feet. Most visitors walking through downtown never realize that below the sidewalks exists another world. Actually, several worlds. The best-known part is the Pedway, an underground network connecting office buildings, train stations, hotels, shopping areas, and public facilities through tunnels stretching beneath the loop. But even deeper lies something far more mysterious. In the early 20th century, Chicago built a network of narrow freight tunnels running underneath downtown. Small electric trains transported coal, packages, mail, and supplies between buildings without creating traffic above ground. For decades, this invisible railroad quietly powered much of the city's economy. Most residents had no idea it even existed. Then came one of the strangest disasters in Chicago's history. In 1992, construction work accidentally damaged part of an old tunnel near the river. At first, the crack looked insignificant, but water slowly began entering the tunnel system. Within hours, millions of gallons of river water flooded the underground network. Basements filled with water. Parking garages disappeared beneath the flood. Electrical systems failed. Businesses shut down across downtown. The damage eventually exceeded $1 billion. Today, large portions of those underground spaces still exist, hidden beneath one of America's busiest cities. And finally, one of Chicago's strangest features isn't hidden at all. Most people simply don't notice it. Chicago has one of the largest alley networks on the entire planet. While many cities have only a handful of service alleys, Chicago built an extraordinary grid totaling roughly 1,900 miles, or more than 3,000 kilometers. That's longer than the distance between New York and Denver. These alleys weren't built by accident. City planners intentionally placed garbage collection, deliveries, utility lines, maintenance access, and service entrances behind buildings instead of on the main streets. The result is remarkably clean avenues, less traffic congestion, and easier access for emergency services. These back alleys also became an unmistakable symbol of Chicago's identity. Countless detective movies, crime dramas, and television series have used them as filming locations because they instantly create the atmosphere people associate with the city. For locals, they're simply part of everyday life. For visitors, they're often invisible. Yet together, they form one of the largest urban alley systems ever constructed. When people think about Chicago, they usually picture skyscrapers, sports teams, or famous architecture. But the real story of this city lies beneath the surface. Quite literally. Chicago raised itself into the air instead of rebuilding. It forced a river to flow in the opposite direction. It built an underground transportation network that few people ever knew existed. And it created thousands of hidden passageways that quietly keep one of America's largest cities functioning every single day. Most cities adapt to geography. Chicago changed geography itself. And maybe that's the greatest secret of all. Because Chicago isn't simply a city that grew. It's a city that refused to accept the limits nature gave it, and instead rebuilt reality on its own terms. If you enjoyed discovering these incredible places, don't forget to subscribe to Curiosities, because there are many more cities around the world hiding.